Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Aaron's Book Club. I have another book review to do today, and this one is different than what I would normally pick up. And I only got it because a while ago, too far ago, I got this copy as an advanced reader's copy, and I wanted something different to read, so I picked this one up. So the book review I have to do today is Moral Combat: Why the War on Violent Video Games is Wrong, by Patrick M. Markey and Christopher Ferguson, both PhDs. First and foremost, I really hope they changed the cover. I think this is a boring, nondescript cover. I don't think it will attract a lot of readers. The title might, but no, I don't think it will. It's a very good book. It really got me thinking, and I think it would really get a lot of people thinking. But before I get into it, just keep in mind that a lot of his arguments is based on the fact that the older scientists are biased against video gaming in general, and violent video games for sure, because they just don't get video games, which is a valid point. Scientists are going to fear what's new. They're going to fear what goes against what they're standing for, even if, say, what they're standing for they've stood for years. They're going to fight against that. That being said, the authors of this book are not an unbiased authors themselves. It says it right in the title. They are against this war on video games, therefore they are pro-gaming. So yes, the older scientists in general have a opinion that they are more biased towards not being a gaming society, whereas these ones are, again, more biased towards being a gaming society. And yes, their work is cited and their proof is documented. I'm not saying that their viewpoint is incorrect in that they're allowing their biases to win the argument, but there is still, we're humans, there is still going to be a focus on what their bias is. That being said, love the book, love how it's laid out in levels, like the chapters are levels, love the graphs. Again, cover I didn't like, and as you see me looking down, I've written down all the notes as I was reading this so that I wouldn't forget anything. They're, again, well written with research to back up the theories and cited research to back up the theory. Even if it's research that's cherry picked as to what makes it work, it's still, the entire article is cited. The one argument that I wanted to bring up is their scientific research is very different from real world research in both ways. The argument that violent video games cause violence, and again, this was touched on in the book, is you're putting people in a lab situation, exposing them to something that you believe will cause violence, and then exposing them to other people, which wouldn't be very ethical. And at the same time, if you're putting people in a laboratory and having them play video games that say you choose, that's not a real world experiment. You're in a cold environment, and scientists are so gung-ho about controlling different vectors and variables that by the time you have all your variables controlled, you no longer have an experiment that is based on real world experience. So if it's so far removed from real world experience, how then can it be used as a backup for theories and thoughts about gaming or non-gaming? Because you're taking experiments that may or may not be able to be replicated in the real world and using that as facts to back your opinion. It's an interesting concept. And again, both sides are laid out in this book. Both viewpoints are laid out on this book, but there is emphasis on the pro-gaming because, again, they're two pro-gaming people. There's a lot of talk, though, about old versus young and researchers bashing each other's views. But the views are more like they're attacking each other instead of their viewpoints, kind of thing. And the researchers, again, was doing a lot of, well, these old researchers don't get it, and we're the young, hip, up-and-coming people. it got a little old. Excuse me. In the end, like, their theory is because we're new and the up and coming and these guys are old and archaic, we can't learn anything from them and they can't learn anything from us, basically. Where I don't think that's the point that they're trying to get across, but that is how it came across. Yeah, the people who've come up and lived different experiences would have different viewpoints and maybe not be so readily eager to accept new things, but that doesn't make them no longer valid, is kind of what I'm saying. And that goes with both ways. I'm sure there are older researchers who will be pro gaming and who do appreciate and understand what others are thinking. So that can go both ways. But again, this whole old folks don't get it, and we are the new up and coming. I don't think that's the way to go about proving your point. I think you should strictly stick with the facts, which they did for the most part, but being the old people versus the new people became kind of the going theme throughout all of this book. But in the end, it made you really think. And very near the end, there was a story about a mother who was concerned about her daughter's gaming, and the emphasis on communication was there, and on working together to solve a problem instead of saying this is the only way that it needs to be done. So you know what? It's a book that makes you think, and I think that everybody should probably read this book with an open mind. A lot of parents should be reading this book, especially again with today's day and age of the gaming genre. Even after this crisis of gaming is over, this should be read by parents to see where kids are coming from and to open up a dialogue point with your children. I think half the problem in today's society is a lack of communication, and more than often than not, a lack of communication due to fear of conflict or reprisal. The inability to deal with conflict seems to be something that is raised again and again and again in families. And I'm no exception. I hate conflict. People get away with a lot more than I would usually let them because, again, I don't want the conflict. So, interesting book, a very quick read, but it will make you think. So, thank you very much, guys, and I will let you know when I have another book read.